Welcome to this tutorial on medical affairs specific writing, essential documents, compliance, and strategic communication. In medical affairs, writing is far more than a task. It's a cornerstone of credibility and influence. The quality of your writing directly reflects the quality of your science, your organization's professionalism, and your ability to gain trust from healthcare providers, regulators, and key opinion leaders. Unlike academic or marketing writing, medical affairs documents are highly technical, heavily regulated, and strategically important. They need to be clear, accurate, evidence-based, and fully compliant with good clinical practice (GCP) guidelines. But they also need to be engaging and purposeful, designed to communicate insights, support decision-making, and drive collaborations. In this tutorial, we'll cover three major areas of medical affairs writing. First, we'll explore medical information letters and investigator brochures, focusing on how to provide clear, unbiased information to healthcare professionals and support investigators with comprehensive, trustworthy drug and safety data. Second, we'll dive into clinical trial reports and GCP-compliant documentation. We'll look at clinical study reports, protocols, informed consent forms, and monitoring documentation, learning how to write with precision so that every document stands up to audits and regulatory scrutiny. Finally, we'll explore strategic medical publications and KOL engagement writing. Here we'll discuss how publications, white papers, and data summaries can influence practice, shape perception, and strengthen scientific relationships. Before we dive into each type of document, let's start with an overview of the essential documents medical affairs teams produce and manage. These are the materials that reflect your organization's expertise, scientific integrity, and compliance culture. First, we have medical information letters. These are formal, evidence-based responses to unsolicited inquiries from healthcare professionals. They are not promotional in nature, but are vital tools for ensuring that accurate, balanced information reaches clinicians and decision makers. The precision and clarity in these letters build trust and establish your credibility. Next are investigator brochures, IBs. The IB is the foundational reference document for investigators involved in clinical trials. It compiles everything from the investigational product's pharmacology and toxicology data to safety information and dosing guidelines. Writing a clear, well-organized IB is critical because investigators use it to make clinical decisions, ensure patient safety, and understand the trial's risk-benefit profile. Then we have clinical trial reports and GCP-compliant documentation. This category includes clinical study reports, CSRs, protocols, informed consent forms, monitoring plans, and safety narratives. These documents are subject to regulatory audits, meaning that accuracy, transparency, and consistency are non-negotiable. Strong writing here ensures not only compliance, but also smooth regulatory submissions. Finally, there are strategic publications. These are manuscripts, white papers, and review articles crafted with a scientific storytelling approach to engage key opinion leaders, KOLs, share insights, and shape practice patterns. Strategic publications amplify medical affairs voice and position your organization as a trusted scientific partner. Let's start with one of the most frequent but often underestimated deliverables in medical affairs: medical information letters. These are written responses to unsolicited inquiries from healthcare professionals. They may seem simple, but they carry enormous responsibility because they represent your organization's voice and credibility. The primary goal of a medical information letter is to provide evidence-based, objective, and balanced information. Unlike marketing materials, these letters must be completely non-promotional. They are not designed to influence prescribing habits, but to ensure that healthcare providers receive scientifically accurate information to support their clinical decision making. Each letter must be backed by peer-reviewed data, product labeling, and regulatory approved information. Writers need to carefully reference primary literature, clinical study results, and relevant guidelines, ensuring that every statement is verifiable. Even the tone matters. Letters should be factual, neutral, and free of persuasive language. Medical information. Letters also play a critical role in building trust and transparency. When clinicians see that your responses are thoughtful, accurate, and unbiased, it strengthens your reputation as a reliable scientific partner. Over time, this trust reinforces your organization's credibility in the healthcare community. From a compliance perspective, these letters must be documented and archived. Companies often maintain detailed logs of inquiries and responses, which can be audited by regulatory agencies. Proper version control, medical review, and sign-off processes are essential to ensure consistency and traceability. Okay, after exploring medical information letters, which focus on one-to-one communication with healthcare professionals, let's shift gears to a much larger, more comprehensive document, the investigator's brochure. Unlike medical information letters, which address specific questions, this document serves as a complete scientific and regulatory reference for all investigators participating in a clinical trial. The investigator's brochure is the single source of truth about an investigational product. It compiles everything an investigator needs to safely conduct a study: detailed pharmacology, toxicology, pharmacokinetics, summaries of preclinical studies, and findings from all completed clinical trials to date. It also outlines known risks, anticipated adverse events, and recommended monitoring practices. In short, it equips investigators with the knowledge to balance risks and benefits as they make decisions during a trial. This document is not just informative, it's a critical compliance tool. Regulators expect it to be clear, precise, and meticulously organized, because confusion in this document could lead to serious safety risks. The investigator's brochure must also be regularly updated whenever new data emerges, whether from ongoing studies, safety reports, or regulatory findings. Sponsors are responsible for version control and ensuring every investigator has access to the latest edition. Think of the investigator's brochure as a bridge of trust between sponsors and investigators. It demonstrates that the sponsor is transparent, responsible, and committed to patient safety. Well-written brochures also streamline training, trial initiation, and regulatory inspections, making them a cornerstone of trial readiness. Now that we've explored this foundational document, let's move to another critical piece of regulated writing: the clinical study report. A clinical study report is a document that serves as the definitive record of a completed clinical trial. A clinical study report is a formal, highly structured document that serves as a complete record of a clinical trial's conduct, data, and outcomes. While publications often summarize trial findings, the CSR provides regulators with the full picture. Every design choice, every data point, every analysis. This level of detail ensures that regulatory authorities can independently verify results and assess the integrity of the trial. The structure of a CSR is governed by the International Council for Harmonization's ICHE 3 guidelines. These guidelines specify exactly what must be included: objectives, methodology, patient disposition, efficacy and safety findings, statistical analyses, and a thorough discussion of the results. Nothing is left open to interpretation. This document is built for precision and auditability. Because of its importance, the CSR is a massive team effort. Medical affairs, clinical operations, biostatistics, regulatory and safety teams all contribute to ensure every number, figure, and narrative is accurate and consistent. A CSR can easily span hundreds of pages, and a single error can slow regulatory review, raise concerns, or even delay approval. Think of the CSR as the cornerstone of regulatory submissions. It doesn't just report data, it demonstrates that the trial was conducted ethically, adhered to good clinical practice, and that the evidence behind your product is strong, transparent, and reliable. Let's step back and examine the other essential documents required to meet good clinical practice standards. These materials are equally critical because they provide the framework and evidence. Regulators need to confirm that every aspect of the trial was designed, conducted, and monitored in full compliance with ethical and scientific principles. We begin with the study protocol, which is the blueprint of the entire trial. This document outlines the study's objectives, design, methodology, eligibility criteria, endpoints, and statistical analysis plans. A well-written protocol leaves no room for ambiguity, ensuring every investigator and trial site operates under the same clear set of instructions. Regulatory authorities, sponsors, and ethics committees rely heavily on the protocol to evaluate whether a trial is feasible, ethical, and scientifically sound, making clarity and precision essential. P. Every good clinical practice compliant document must withstand intense regulatory inspections and audits. Writing these materials demands attention to detail, strict version control, and a commitment to transparency, as they form the foundation for regulatory confidence and patient safety. Another crucial document is the informed consent form. This is not just a regulatory requirement, but a vital ethical safeguard. It must explain, in plain and understandable language, the purpose of the trial, its risks and benefits, and what participation entails. Participants must be able to make informed decisions without confusion or coercion, which means medical affairs professionals and clinical teams must collaborate to ensure this document balances accuracy with readability. We also have monitoring reports, audit documentation, and site visit records, which serve as proof that trial conduct is continuously evaluated. These documents must demonstrate compliance with protocols, identify deviations, and outline corrective actions. Let's now explore strategic medical publications, which are one of the most powerful tools medical affairs teams use to influence clinical practice, educate stakeholders, and establish scientific leadership. These documents are more than just summaries of trial results. They are carefully planned communication tools that help translate evidence into action and position your organization as a trusted authority. Strategic publications include a range of formats, such as peer-reviewed manuscripts, white papers, review articles, and perspective pieces. Each serves a different purpose. Manuscripts ensure that trial results are formally documented and available to the scientific community. White papers are often used to address emerging trends, unmet needs, or position statements. Review articles synthesize knowledge to guide decision-making. Together, these publications create a robust narrative around your company's science and innovations. For medical affairs teams, strategic publications are core elements of long-term planning. They are typically mapped out through comprehensive publication plans, which align with organizational goals and product lifecycle strategies. For example, early phase publications may focus on building disease awareness, while later publications highlight clinical efficacy, safety, and real-world evidence. The credibility of your organization is closely tied to how these publications are written. They must be accurate, balanced, transparent, and free from promotional bias. Collaborating with statisticians, medical writers, regulatory teams, and key opinion leaders, ensures that every article reflects scientific rigor while also being accessible and relevant to its audience. After discussing strategic medical publications, let's focus on a closely related but distinct skill: writing for key opinion leader KOL engagement. KOLs are leading voices in their fields, and building strong relationships with them is a cornerstone of medical affairs strategy. Writing plays a key role in these relationships, as every piece of communication, whether it's a briefing document, follow-up email, or scientific slide deck, can strengthen or weaken trust. When writing for KOLs, the first principle is to tailor communication for an expert audience. KOLs are highly knowledgeable, so content must be evidence-based, detailed, and intellectually engaging. However, it also needs to be concise, respectful of their time, and focused on scientific value. A highly effective approach is scientific storytelling. Instead of simply presenting data, craft a narrative that connects evidence to clinical relevance. For example, if you are writing a briefing document ahead of an advisory board meeting, begin with the unmet need, then build a logical progression of how your data addresses that need. This makes complex information meaningful and actionable, even for an expert audience. Equally important is maintaining balance and transparency. KOLs value honesty and scientific rigor. Always present both strengths and limitations of your data. Avoid overly promotional language. Instead, let the evidence speak for itself. Consistently well-written materials help build trust and long-term relationships. KOLs are more likely to collaborate, provide feedback, and support your initiatives when they see professionalism and integrity reflected in every communication. Writing for KOL engagement is about far more than sharing facts. It's about positioning your organization as a credible scientific partner. When your writing demonstrates respect, clarity, and a deep understanding of their expertise, you create a foundation for lasting influence and collaboration. Another important point: every piece of writing in medical affairs exists at the intersection of compliance and communication. This means your content must always meet the strictest regulatory standards while still being clear, engaging, and strategically aligned. Medical affairs professionals operate in a highly regulated environment where accuracy, transparency, and traceability are non-negotiable. Documents such as protocols, clinical study reports, and investigators' brochures undergo regulatory inspections, and even routine materials like medical information letters may be audited. This is why precision in every word matters. However, compliance is only part of the equation. Your writing also needs to be understandable and actionable for its intended audience, whether it's regulators, investigators, KOLs, or internal stakeholders. To achieve this balance, medical affairs writers must work closely with regulatory, legal, and clinical teams. Collaboration ensures that messaging is consistent, accurate, and meets regional and global requirements. It also allows writers to anticipate questions and concerns from external reviewers or regulatory authorities. But strategic communication goes beyond checklists. Well-written content builds credibility and trust. A clear, compliant, and well-structured clinical study report reassures regulators. A concise, balanced medical information letter reassures physicians. A thoughtfully crafted white paper can shape scientific discourse and establish your organization as a trusted partner in advancing healthcare. Let's pause to review practical tips and common pitfalls that can make or break medical affairs writing. Regardless of whether you're drafting a clinical study report, a medical information letter, or a publication plan, these principles will help ensure that your work stands out for its professionalism and quality. First, always prioritize clarity, accuracy, and consistency. In medical affairs, a single ambiguous phrase or misaligned data point can create confusion, raise red flags in audits, or undermine credibility. Use clear, straightforward language and maintain consistency across section, figures, and references. Second, be mindful of your audience. While scientific rigor is essential, avoid overly technical language or unnecessary jargon that might overwhelm readers. For example, regulators expect highly technical precision, but a KOL briefing should focus on actionable data and key insights. Tailor your tone and style based on who will read the document. Another vital practice is strict version control and traceability. All regulated documents, from protocols to investigator brochures, are subject to inspection. Every revision should be logged, every approval documented, and every file archived correctly. Failing to maintain proper documentation is one of the fastest ways to trigger compliance issues. Now let's talk about pitfalls. Some of the most common include bias or promotional tone, poor formatting, and lack of audience focus. Even unintentional bias, such as overemphasizing positive results, can erode trust. Poor formatting or inconsistencies can frustrate reviewers, while ignoring your audience's needs can make your message ineffective. Now that we've covered core document types and writing principles, let's take a deeper look at publication planning and life cycle management, which is one of the most strategic responsibilities of medical affairs teams. Scientific publications are not standalone deliverables. They are part of a coordinated communication plan designed to support a product's entire life cycle, from early development through post-marketing. Effective publication planning starts early, often before a compound enters pivotal trials. The goal is to ensure that every phase of data generation is documented, communicated, and strategically sequenced. For example, early phase studies might be shared in conference abstracts and posters to build awareness. Phase 3 results are typically published in high-impact peer-reviewed journals to establish credibility, while post-marketing studies, real-world evidence analyses, and health economics data are published to expand understanding of safety, effectiveness, and value. Timing is everything. Medical affairs teams must coordinate publication timelines with regulatory submissions, data releases, and scientific conferences. A well-timed publication can position your organization as a leader in its field, while poorly timed communication can result in missed opportunities or regulatory risks. Journal selection and messaging also play a critical role. Choosing the right journal involves understanding your target audience, the journal's reputation, and its indexing in major databases like PubMed. Messaging must always remain balanced, evidence-driven, and compliant with guidelines such as Good Publication Practice, GPP. Publication planning is a collaborative effort between medical affairs, clinical development teams, statisticians, regulatory professionals, and external authors. It requires careful project management, transparent authorship criteria, and consistent review processes to maintain scientific integrity. When done well, publication planning ensures that your data isn't just published but strategically positioned to influence clinical practice, build trust with key opinion leaders, and support the success of your product. Now let's dive into another critical dimension of medical affairs writing: regulatory inspections and audit readiness. Every document you write, whether it's a clinical study report, protocol, monitoring plan, or medical information letter, should be created with the assumption that it could be reviewed by regulatory authorities or external auditors at any time. Inspection readiness is not just about regulatory compliance. It's about demonstrating that your organization operates with transparency, integrity, and attention to detail. Regulators focus heavily on whether documents are clear, internally consistent, and fully traceable to source data. A single ambiguous sentence or conflicting data point can lead to questions, findings, or even delays in product approval. Auditors and inspectors often pay close attention to protocol deviations, safety reporting, and data integrity. That means your writing needs to reflect a high standard of documentation. Every amendment, adverse event narrative, or monitoring visit record must be precise, complete, and linked to a verifiable audit trail. Clear version histories, accurate metadata, and detailed change logs show that your processes are robust. Medical affairs writing plays a big role here because so many documents, like investigators' brochures, informed consent forms, and periodic safety update reports, are reviewed to confirm that patient rights and safety are prioritized. Poorly written documents create unnecessary scrutiny, while well-prepared materials make inspections smoother and instill confidence in your organization. When your documentation is clear, accurate, and audit-ready, you not only avoid regulatory risk but also strengthen your reputation with partners, investigators, and authorities. High-quality medical affairs writing is rarely created in isolation. It requires cross-functional collaboration between multiple teams, each bringing unique expertise to ensure documents are both scientifically sound and regulatory compliant. Medical affairs professionals often serve as the scientific leads, setting the tone and structure for documents, whether it's a clinical study report, publication plan, or medical information letter. However, their work is deeply interconnected with contributions from other teams. For example, clinical operations teams provide operational insights and site-level data, ensuring the accuracy of trial-related content. Regulatory teams ensure that all materials comply with evolving guidelines, formats, and submission standards. Meanwhile, safety teams bring deep expertise in adverse event reporting and pharmacovigilance narratives, adding another critical layer of detail. Collaboration doesn't just improve content accuracy, it enhances efficiency. Organizations with structured review processes, including standardized templates, tiered review cycles, and clear approval workflows, avoid duplication, reduce errors, and ensure documents are consistent across programs. This is particularly important when multiple teams are contributing to large regulatory submissions, where inconsistency could lead to unnecessary questions from regulators. Cross-functional teamwork also encourages stronger storytelling. Data becomes more meaningful when clinical insights are combined with regulatory perspectives, medical strategy, and safety expertise. These documents don't just report findings, they provide context, rationale, and value to their intended audience, whether it's a regulatory authority, a healthcare professional, or a key opinion leader. Medical affairs writers play a central role as facilitators, ensuring that all contributions are harmonized into a clear, cohesive narrative. When collaboration is seamless, documents demonstrate scientific rigor, compliance, and organizational professionalism, qualities that build trust with external stakeholders and reflect your company's commitment to excellence. To close out this section, let's focus on how to elevate your medical affairs writing skills and build a long-term foundation of excellence. Writing in this field is not a one-time skill you master. It's a continuous learning process because regulatory expectations, publication practices, and industry standards are constantly evolving. A crucial step in improving writing quality is leveraging tools and technology. Reference management systems such as EndNote, Mendeley, and Zotero can save hours by automating citations and ensuring accuracy. Style and grammar tools like PerfectIt or Grammarly can help catch formatting errors or inconsistencies before documents go into review, making internal reviews faster and smoother. For teams managing high volumes of documents, content management systems with version control ensure every revision is traceable and compliant. Equally important is working with standardized templates and style guides. Standard operating procedures, SOPs, Company-specific writing guidelines and international style manuals like AMA or ICMJE bring consistency to every document. Consistency is more than aesthetics. It builds credibility and helps regulators, investigators, and external readers navigate your documents with ease. However, technology and templates are only part of the solution. True excellence comes from ongoing training and mentorship. Medical affairs writers should engage in continuous professional development through workshops, webinars, and courses on regulatory writing, scientific communication, and good clinical practice. Peer reviews, mentoring programs, and exposure to cross-functional projects also help writers sharpen their skills and gain new perspectives. Investing in writing skills is not just about avoiding errors. It's about building confidence, improving collaboration, and demonstrating a culture of quality. As we close this tutorial, let's take a step back and reflect on what we've covered. Writing in medical affairs is so much more than a technical skill. It's a strategic advantage. We explored the critical role of compliance in writing, learning how documents must withstand regulatory inspections, audits, and scientific scrutiny. But we also highlighted the importance of strategy. Every piece of writing has the potential to educate healthcare professionals, influence key opinion leaders, strengthen collaborations, and enhance your organization's reputation in the medical community. Compliance and strategy are not separate. They are deeply connected. Thank you so much and see you soon.